Alright, so this is our wig and we're gonna start cutting. You wanna see how I make wigs? I'll put a link down below. So I kinda gauged this because I had marked my my head where my eyes would be and how wide I want them. The wider your bangs, the wider you cut them, the wider they'll sit on your face. So if you want them to go like 2D, like my Mary J. Blige look, where I'll stick somewhere up in here, if like that, and you want it to go all the way around, you would obviously cut these much wider. If you want them more of a Chinese black China bang, then you obviously would bring them much more in. These, I'm just doing pretty much basic. They're not too close in, but they're also not too wide neither. So what you're gonna do is this is what it looks like on, as you guys can see. We're gonna go ahead and take the flat iron and we're gonna bump this first before we cut it. And here's why. When you bump your hair, it makes your hair shorter. So if you cut too much, obviously this is too much. But if you cut too much, then you're gonna kind of see that and it's gonna look weird. I've seen it all over Instagram where girls' bangs be super duper like above. I don't like bangs that are above their eyebrow. I've seen other people do it and it's cute on them, but because I have much of a wider face and a stronger jawline, that's not a look. It looks like I didn't know what I was doing. So that's what we're doing here, and this is a foolproof way to make sure that your bangs come out great. Start them off long and you're gonna cut up gradually. So this is what we're doing here. We're just cutting off extra. After that was a rough cut, but I already know for myself how I want them to look. So this is going to be a trial and error. Continue to do this on your head. Keep checking it on your head. If you're cutting your own bangs, this might not be the greatest for you, because if I cut them too short, depending on how short is too short, I can just pull my wig forward. But if they on your head, girl, they there. And bangs are not the cutest when they're cut wrong. So here I'm just going in and I'm gonna just even out where I want all of my bangs to hit, because if you do not do this correctly, your bangs are going to look crazy. So because I'm having layers on the side of my face, I'm cutting them just a tad bit wider than I would previous bangs. Now here is where you're going to cut all your layers into. So what you will want to do is take it and put a slight bend in it, because it's going to make cutting much easier for you. So let's see what we're gonna do now. So here I'm just checking to make sure that everything is like I want it and everything is cut properly and it's even and it's bumped right, because I like my bangs with a bump in them. I don't like when they just like how Barbie's bangs be. She don't have no bump, they just straight across. So try to put as much bump in it as you would want and how you would wear it. So as you can see, if somebody had a super long ass face, they pretty much what their hair would look like when it had a bit of a bump to it, if they had a huge super long forehead. But we're not going to leave it here. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting, but I'm gonna just cut the middle, because in the finished product, the middle of like above my nose will be higher than the sides of my face, because I'm going for more like a mushroomish look. If you're going for more of a China bang or some Chinese bangs, then you wouldn't do this step. You would cut everything evenly. So you would do this part and then you would go ahead and then you would do the other sides as well. You wouldn't just do the middle. But because mine is gonna have more of this kind of 2D look to it, but not so much, I'm gonna do this. So as you can see, the middle is gonna start to get very, very high, which is what we want. So here, when you cut your layers, you want to pull them and then cut them very lightly, and you're going to start to see how the layers on the side start to form. It's very easy. So you just go in, you pull it out away from you, and then you go ahead and just pretty slightly take your shears and you go down and just cut. So here I'm going in and I'm just going to keep doing that. And as you can see, once we get a little further down in the video, I'm going to actually start pulling it from the back as well, so that I can get more and more layers, so everything just looks like one full unit as opposed to bangs on the top and layers on the bottom. And you'll see once we go a little further. Now, for some of you guys, this is probably where you would stop. If you wanted more of a China bang with a little layers on the side, this is where you would stop. For me, I'm going all the way in. We're going to go home with it, baby. Just make sure you pray. But, you know, this is something that is based on preference. And I like for my layers and my bangs to all be one unit. You see how there's a gap between the bang and then right here, we're going to take all of that out and we're going to make sure that it all is one unit. And as you guys see, I keep going back and making sure I'm bumping it just so I won't cut too much off. I already put my lines in for where I want it to be, but just to be on the safe side. So here we're just doing the same thing, which is just cutting a lot of that bulk off to give it more of a sleek look in the front. So when the wind blows, when I move my head, when I whip my head, it's all layers. That's all you see is fringe and layers, and that's the look ultimately that we're gonna get. This does take practice. If you're not good with shears and scissors and things of that nature, it's gonna take a minute, because again, if you close them too hard, they will cut a straight line. So just remember that the lighter the hand, the more of a feather look you'll get. The heavier the hand, the more of a blunt look you're gonna get. Remember, always use your flat iron to make sure to see what your final look is going to look like. Sometimes when you do this and you're either doing it where you're holding the hair, it got a lot of texture in it, you really can't see until it's done. I like to work in the final product type of thing. I think I get that from working with Photoshop, where you can see what it looked like in its end. So with that being the situation, I like to see what my final product will look like before I go any further, because I want to fix something if it's bad before I get all. I've done it before, completely done, and I've been mad. So here you can see we're starting to take shape now. Now it has more of that mushroomish look to it. So now I'm gonna go in and then flat iron in layers to make sure that the bump is exactly what I want it to be, because this is how I would ultimately wear it. So as you can see, we still have, like, it's not very even in the bang area, and we're gonna go in and just, you know, make that much more neater. But here we go, we're gonna do this again, which is you're gonna pull it forward, and as you can see, everything is starting to flow together. So it's a time consuming, I mean, hair is time consuming, period. That's why you spend more hours getting it done than you actually do flinging it in the streets because you're tired. But that's what I'm going in. I'm just going in to make sure that all my layers are one, all of them are flowy, they all look great, they all are even. And it's gonna take a little bit more time for you to refine this, so don't get like, you be like, oh, mine looks, you know, really choppy. That's fine. Just go back, and once you start to see where everything is, you'll get it. It's very, like, simple into the fact, but you see I'm pulling it from the back so that I can make sure that all that has layers in it too. So if I pull my hair forward, it looks great. If I put it behind my back, it also still looks great. But you just don't want it to be all one length unless that's the look you're going for. With this, that's not what I'm going for. My previous look, it was kind of that. This is layer. So this is kind of like a layer and bangs tutorial, but if you was to do this on your hair with a middle part, this is what you would do as far as to get your layers to look like such. So when cutting layers, you always want to pull it from the around the back, and then you want to cut at an angle, if that makes any sense. You guys see me do it before. It's not that hard. But if you guys need me to do more in-depth on how to cut bangs and layers, I will. But I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. And again, don't be afraid to go ahead and fire up that flat iron while you're doing this, to make sure that that look is what you want. Because you can see pretty much what the ultimate look will look like. And so now you see they're still too long. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a clip and I'm gonna find where my nose is, and that's as much as I want to cut. So we're gonna take this and then we're gonna go ahead and cut it. So since I know exactly where that was now, I'm gonna go and just cut that off and then make the round out the top of the bangs. So as you can see here, if you wanted to like some China bangs straight across with a little bump will give you just that look. So if you would stop here if this is the look that you wanted, not necessarily the side parts, but without those, this would be some nice neat China bangs. But we're not doing that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go in and connect the sides to the middle. And I'm just softening up that very blunt line so that everything flows together. Point cutting, this is something that does take a little time to get used to, and it also depends on the sharpness of the shears. Sometimes you could use a dull pair and you get used to that, then you get a new sharp pair and you just tear your whole wig up, because trust me, I've done it, so don't feel bad. But yeah, once you get used to this and used to the the sharpness of your shears, I need a new pair, but I don't really cut that often, but I'm gonna give me a new pair for sure. But yeah, it becomes I can do this in my sleep now. And I remember being in school and this was something I struggled with very, very hard, like just to get a blunt cut that wasn't crooked. So practice does make perfect, or close to it. So now it looks like Sharifa's hair. Remember her? And because I was doing this on camera, I kept having to look into the viewfinder to see if I was tripping, because the monitor, I was like, I don't know if there's a piece there or is it just the angle I'm at. But yeah, just make sure you keep checking it and checking it and checking it and checking it. But I've kind of marked it, as you notice where these pins are, where my eye line would be. So yeah. Like I said, always go in with your flat iron and bump it to where you would actually wear it to see if you need to do more cutting or you should stop. Because sometimes trust me, I know, it's very easy to get very scissor happy, like, well, I got this, these layers is good, and you put it on and girl, it's a hat. So here, as you can see, the side was still, excuse me for not shaving, but for those who say I don't grow facial hair, lies, Manelli, honey, lies. But here I just went in and did some more while it was on my head to kind of see exactly where I wanted it to be. If you're not comfortable with this, don't do this, because you will light yourself up. It's not really smart. But this is kind of the gist of where everything was and how I wanted it to look when it was all said and done. So we're going to get to the final look right after this. So you should end up with something like this. Layers galore and a beautiful helmet made of hair. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, this hair is from AliGrace. I'm wearing their Brazilian straight and 3 bundles of straight and a 13x4 frontal. Have a good one.